Welcome to planning. Planning can be extremely simple, planning can be extremely complex. My original form of planning was to go, what am I going to do today? Alright, let's go. Then for those of you who are raised in the 80s or the early 90s, this thing called Franklin Covey planners, okay? This whole world you might have missed out on, where it was like a cultural standard to carry a Franklin planner with its entire planning system, etc., etc. There are so many different ways to plan. The relevant elements of a plan is that you don't wait until it's perfect. You just throw some things together. Okay, I could do this, let's try that. You're going to be doing a lot of Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison and other scientists like him, they just guessed of what a good plan would be. What if we start with these elements and then we're going to try it? That goes down through the act to reflect part before we come back to discover. Then they tried it again. So when you make a plan, don't keep trying to figure out what the best plan is without running it through the system. Grab some ideas, put it together, act upon it, see what happens. And do that over and over and over again. Earlier today I was talking to a guy who just has a really hard time moving things from his head onto paper. Just can't get it down there, so he's just been so reluctant. He finally tried the idea of where you just put an idea on a tiny little card. He cut 3x5 cards in half, and then now he puts them on the floor, and now when he's making plans he can kind of move them around with his hands instead of like on paper all the time. Some people might just use pictures of their, okay, here's a picture of my scriptures, here's a picture of a person praying, here's a picture of a person reading, and they just kind of move them around and prioritize them. Pictures of different projects you might want to work on, cutting things out of a magazine. Depends on your style. The key is just moving it from a general idea to what I'm going to do. Usually I recommend that your plan be like a week through a month, kind of like the near future plans. Alright, you can have some of that long-term stuff in your head, but there's so many things that can change in 3 to 6 months. Just have a general idea, and then you start to think about, by the end of the week I want to have this done. By the end of the month I want to have this done, and you just start listing that. We'll get more detailed when it comes to the ACT square, but for right now we're just creating plans. Now this sounds easier than it is, because most of us have to try a planning system and then revise it and try another one. A common thing that I see is people just stop planning. They just stop. They go, well, it didn't work yesterday, or only 1/4 of my plan came together, so why am I doing this? One of my favorite analogies for this is football. Football is one of the most amazing representations of planning every 30 seconds. The team gathers together and they make a plan for what they're going to do on the next play. Every play could produce a touchdown if the other side would just let us, okay, if they would just get out of the way and we could push them where we want them to go, we could make a touchdown. Or the plan could lead to a loss of 5, 10, or 20 yards. So they just do everything they can, and if they fail, they don't go, that didn't work. They gather together, they make another plan, and then they try again. And then they make another plan, and then they try again. The nice thing for us is we probably might stick with like a 24-hour cycle instead of a 30-second cycle. But the other thing that football does is every time the offense leaves the field, they come together and they make a plan for the next series. And every time the game's over, they review film and come up with a plan for the next week of training. And when the season is over, they come together and they make a plan for the next season. So this is the same way your brain should work. Make a plan for the next 5 years, make a plan for the next year, make a plan for the next month, make a plan for the next week, make a plan for the next day. What if it doesn't work? Do you realize that close to like 60% of most football plays don't work? So the most important part of planning is just doing it again and again and again, and you won't be good at it first, then you can get better at it.